they talking real loud. Spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Sunday Vitamins. So we're about to get into it. Everybody hit that like button. Thank you for being tuned in. Okay, so Diddy is trying to get out of this trial. They have filed for a second mistrial. Okay, so we're going to get into it. But before we do, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And for the men, don't forget that she has this magnificent beard oil that the ladies will absolutely love. Okay, so now let's get into it. Okay, hey Elizabeth, Anita is here, Nessie X, Jamal, all hell nah, Juju B is in the house. All right, Jonah, I see you, beloved. Everybody hit that like button and let's get into it. Okay, thank you guys for tuning in. And also thank you all for the super chats and the cash apps. I appreciate every last one of you who have been contributing, okay, for me to stay up here in New York. Hey, we the people. Mel is in the house. Okay, so hey, Desmond. All right, and a big shout out to Anastasia that I met yesterday. I had a lovely time talking to you, beloved, even though we had to stand in the rain for a minute. Okay, listen, New York is showing the Queen love. I have met some of my subscribers up here, specifically Anastasia. I was able to talk to her for a good while yesterday, and we had a great time. All right, Auntie Leah is in the house. Jamal, 504 Nola, Pretty Wings is here. Okay, so let's get into it. Y'all, where does Diddy think he's going? Why is Diddy trying to get out of this trial? Diddy, there is no mistrial, beloved. Now they're claiming prosecutorial misconduct, and I have the legal docs, so we're going to get into that in just a second. Everybody make sure that you like and share. Jamal says we need to send females to jail for fraud. DNA tests should be mandatory. Well, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. No argument there, beloved. Okay. People who lie should be, and run con games and scams should be charged with fraud, no matter who they are. Hey, the Crazy Beach Aries. Nandy is in the house. All right. So let's talk about it, because here's the deal. So for the second time in just over a week, Sean Diddy Combs wants the judge in his trafficking case to declare a mistrial and just kick the whole sordid matter to the curb, honey, because clearly it's turned into a circus at this point, according to some. Now, they're saying, as I told you, prosecutorial misconduct. Now, this is what defense attorney Alexandra Shapiro said to Judge Arun Subramanian yesterday, okay, and began to insist that this case, says that basically the prosecutors, the government, they should have known that some of the things that Brianna Bongolan said were not factual, okay, to sum it all up. Okay, so they say Combs, this could see Combs behind bars for the rest of his life if found guilty. And they basically say this trial shouldn't go any further. Now, in this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false, related to its allegation that Mr. Combs, in fact, dangled Brianna Bongolan from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment in September of 2016. Now, right, Shapiro's correspondence stated with references to Bongolan's height in retaliation to the Bad Boy Records founder and to apparent inconsistencies in the testimony this past week by the good friend of Cassie Ventura. Accordingly, to avoid an unfair conviction in this case, the court should grant a mistrial. Here's the thing. Now, I told you all days ago when I reported on this, and I told you how Nicole Westmoreland, shout out to her, she's doing her job very thoroughly. But, when she brought the receipts showing that Diddy was in New York, not California, on September 26th of 2016, I told you all, I said, even if that young lady wasn't lying, and just due to all of the use of the illegal substances that she, Cassie, and Diddy were all on during that specific time frame, if she didn't remember the exact date, I would prefer that she had just said that. She should have said on or about or around or approximately sometime in September or early October. She should have given herself space and left it open, right? But when she specifically said an exact date, and then they can come back as the defense and prove that this absolutely is not the case, well, that just throws away the whole story. Okay, because the whole purpose for her even testifying was to prove, in fact, that Diddy was, being threatening, intimidating, and in fact, committing the whole crime by threatening someone's life, because she said that he told her he would murk her, okay, and then dangling her over this balcony. So it just made the whole story just fall apart at the seams. And like I said, even if she was telling the truth and just got the dates mixed up, well, it just looks like she flat out lied at this point. Okay, because Nicole Westmoreland, if it's one thing she can do, it is poke holes in the story of the witness. Now, with that all being said, I don't think Diddy's going to get that mistrial that he's begging for. Okay, now the 55-year-old Combs was arrested in September of 2024 at a New York hotel lobby, okay, by a phalanx of police and federal officials on federal charges of racketeering. We already know the rest. So here's the thing. I did tell you guys that Just Anticipate said, I'm sorry, but she sounds like her brain is fried. It could have been from all the rugs that she was doing, beloved. But here's my thing. I also told you all the other day, and I still believe that what the defense should have done if they were trying to discredit her story, not only by bringing the receipts that Diddy wasn't where she said he was on the day that she claims, I feel like they should have brought in an expert. Do you all remember the case of Courtney Clenny, who murked her boyfriend, Christian Obumsele, and she said that she threw a knife at him? But the evidence showed or suggests that when he was stabbed, the person had to be close up on him and likely shorter than him because the knife was plunged into his chest at a downward angle. And if you remember, they actually showed a video of a person who's supposedly an expert knife thrower throwing a knife from the distance that she claims, which was about 10 feet, to see if they could get it to stick. Okay, and that didn't turn out too good for them. But why I bring that up is because, in my opinion, when Diddy is saying that this didn't happen, Brianna Bungalon is saying that it did, they should have gotten someone to come in who could testify to the physics of it all. Okay, to talk about the gravity and all of those things, to say that, to show a man at Diddy's height and weight, picking up a woman of her height and weight at that time, dangling her from a balcony and then heaving her to the floor, to the ground where she hit furniture. They could easily have gotten someone to come in and substantiate if that was physically possible. Because as I told you all, when I was at the court, there was a big buff guy sitting there and he was telling me that, quite frankly, from the way that she described it, because she says Diddy was holding her. And I want you all to pay attention now and think about this, if you will. She said that Diddy grabbed her underneath her arms and his hands were on her breast. And in fact, they squeezed them so tightly that she had bruises on them. Now, if someone is holding you underneath your arms with their hands on your breast over a balcony and you're pushing back against them, as she claims that she was, that just seems like you would have fallen to the ground below. Now, I'm just saying how that sounds to me. I can't imagine having a good grasp on a person, being strong enough to hold them with my arms under their, in their armpits with the rest of my fingers on their breast. Just do that to yourself. Take your hands right now and put them under your underarms and put your fingers on your chest and tell me if that feels like a good grip. Okay, does that feel like a good grip? And if you had to picture somebody doing that, does it seem like that's actually plausible? I'm not saying that it is or isn't, but these are questions I would have had and that I would have wanted an expert to come in and to attest to. Hey, Anastasia, beloved, shout out to you. Yes, we had a great time in Harlem yesterday. You're beautiful on TV and just as beautiful in person. I'm tuned in. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. It was a pleasure meeting you. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's think about this for a second. Jamal said the 5 heartbeats shows us how it was done. No, Jamal, when the 5 heartbeats showed it, the person, are you paying attention, honey? When the 5 heartbeats showed us how it was done, they were not holding the person under their armpits. And the reason I'm going to tell you why that doesn't sound plausible to me, and I'm not even an expert, is because when you have your fingers, your hands under someone's underarm, and then some of your fingers on their chest, your hands are wide open. Your hands are spread apart. Your fingers are spread apart. In order for you to get a good grasp on someone, specifically if you're dangling them from a balcony and you're not really intending to drop them, you're just trying to scare them, your hands should be clutched closed. Your hands should be clutched closed, not spread apart. You have less strength in your hands and it's harder to keep a grasp when your fingers are spread apart. Open your hand, Jamal, right now. Pick up a cup and keep your fingers open and tell me how long the cup stays in your hand. Okay, it won't. It's going to fall. Then take your hand, pick up that cup and close your hand. Squeeze your fingers together and you can hold it. Do you understand what I'm saying, beloved? Please make it all make sense. Okay, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to tell you that it actually seems to go against or defy the laws of gravity and physics, in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion. Melanin A1 said facts, Queen. Thank you. Durana said exactly. Okay. Jamal said, what's my working hours? 5 to 9. Jamal, sit down somewhere. I'm starting to think you're trolling the queen. Now, let me pull up this paperwork, honey. Now, I'm not going to be here long because I have places to go and people to see. All right. Today is my last day off. Okay. Queen Hewitt said, this is true, Queen. Thank you. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So with that all being said, let's talk about it. I'm going to pull up this paperwork. We're going to go over it. I want to hear this argument that the defense has posed. Okay, here we go. Hold on. All right. Now, here's what they say. Mind you, this was filed on the 7th. This was filed yesterday. Dear Judge Subramanian, the defense respectfully submits this letter in support of its renewed motion for a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. Now, when the introduction of perjured testimony, they say, results in a criminal conviction and the prosecution knew or should have known of the perjury, the conviction must be set aside if there is any unreasonable likelihood that the false testimony could have affected the judgment of the jury. And then they reference the case United States versus Wallet. Okay, so they say, moreover, the prosecutor's knowing use of perjured testimony can violate the due process clause, even if it only undermines a witness's credibility. As the Supreme Court explained, a lie is a lie, no matter what its subject. And if it is in any way relevant to the case, the district attorney has the responsibility and the duty to correct what he knows to be false and to elicit the truth. Honey, they are clearly trying to get this case thrown up out of here. I want y'all to pay attention. Now, as explained below, in this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false, related to its allegation that Mr. Combs dangled Brianna Bongalon from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment in September of 2016. Accordingly, to avoid an unfair conviction in this case, the court must or should grant a mistrial. The government contends the alleged balcony incident is relevant because it shows Mr. Combs' violence directed not only to Ms. Ventura, but to other people around Ms. Ventura. She is aware of this violence, and because of her awareness, it goes to coercion. The incident, as alleged, is disturbing and powerful evidence, and the government has used it to depict Mr. Combs in an extremely negative light as an angry and dangerous man who terrified Ms. Ventura and her friends. Well, he certainly did that, in my opinion. Now, the prosecutors elicited evidence about this allegation from both Ms. Ventura and Ms. Bongalon that is demonstrably false in key respects. They then doubled down, using this false testimony to obtain a ruling admitting inadmissible hearsay evidence as well as it was about it as well, all to present a false narrative to the jury. Now, they did mention hearsay in the court when she was testifying, okay, but the judge let it go. Now, the government started by eliciting testimony from Ms. Ventura about the allegation that cannot be true. Ms. Ventura said she actually saw Mr. Combs holding Ms. Bongalon over the balcony railings. Then they put her a quote from what she said. Says, I saw him bring her back over the railing of the balcony and then throw her onto the patio furniture. Now they say, yet the prosecutors knew that she had not actually seen what she described because they had in their possession a text conversation demonstrating that Ms. Ventura was told about the alleged incident by another unidentified person. Then they have another part of the text that says, hey, I just found out some crazy-ish. I'm just finding out right now. Nonetheless, they allowed Ms. Ventura to continue to insist on cross she had witnessed this incident. Now, the question, they say, and you testified that you saw him throw her onto the patio furniture, right? She answered, yup. He brought her back over the balcony and he threw her down. Now, she persisted in this story even after she was confronted by the text messages. Question, isn't it true that you learned about this incident on the balcony after the fact? And then she answered, I saw what I saw, so I don't know. The question was asked, has the government in your preparation for your testimony in this case gone over this message with you? She answered, not this one, no. Now, thus the government left the jury with a false impression that Ms. Ventura saw Mr. Combs dangle her friend over the balcony and that this made her fearful of him, when in fact, if there was any incident, Ventura merely heard about it afterwards, considerably lessening any probative value as to her state of mind, or probative value. Now, with that being said, next, the government doubled down by presenting perjured testimony from Bongalon intended to corroborate Ventura's false testimony. Bongalon claimed Combs lifted her up and held her feet on the balcony railing, and that this caused injuries to the back of my leg and back and neck pain. Bongalon was very definitive about these injuries and particularly the bruise on her leg, which was one of the details that stuck out in her mind. Now remember, they showed pictures of these bruises. Now, as the government also knows, like other witnesses in the case, Ventura and Bongalan have been in frequent contact at key points and have had many opportunities to collaborate on their stories. And in fact, Bongalan admitted the two friends discussed this incident before and after Ventura filed her lawsuit. Now, Bongalan also has an enormous financial motive to lie because she filed a $10 million lawsuit against Mr. Combs based on this same allegation and will benefit by exaggerating the scope of her injuries to obtain damages. Now, her account makes no sense and seems to be physically impossible. Mr. Combs is only about, see, this is what I'm telling y'all. Now they want to bring this up. See, they should have gotten an expert to come in and attest to this. That's what I think. Now, here's what they say. They said it's physically impossible. Mr. Combs is only about 6 feet tall, and even if he is bigger than her, he is not tall enough to have been able to hold a shorter person, adult, by her armpits. Thank you. I just told you all that. So high that her feet would have been on the balcony railing, as Bongalan testified. Now, here's what I want you all to think about. Okay, this is what I want you all to think about. Because first of all, I'm going to tell you all, listen. Here's the thing. Now, I want you to picture someone lifting a person up onto a balcony by their armpits, as I told you all minutes ago, to the point that their feet are touching the balcony. So that means that he's holding her under the armpits with his arms outstretched. His arms are away from his body. They're outstretched because her body is up on the balcony, feet touching the rails. So his arms are raised above his head. Now, how is that physically possible? And how is he able to hold her without dropping her? Do you see why they're saying this is physically impossible? Okay, do you see how that is physically impossible? Elizabeth says, I'm sure these attorneys are getting paid millions, so they need to try whatever they can to try to get the case dismissed. Now are they? No. Well, here's the thing, Elizabeth, you're absolutely right. Of course, that's what they're supposed to do. That is their job. They are being paid millions. But at the end of the day, think about what she is saying. It doesn't make any sense, whether you like Diddy or not. Okay, because I clearly don't. Diddy needs to be in prison as far as I'm concerned. But the fact of the matter is, it's not physically possible for him to have done what she said in the way that she herself described it. And that just takes a little bit of common sense. You really don't need an expert, but I feel like if they wanted to really drive home their points, they should have gotten an expert. That's all I'm saying. But Diddy's not getting no darn mistrial, honey. He can miss me with it, okay? However, I do agree with what the defense is saying, but let's continue. Now, with that all being said, they go on to say, hold on, let me find my place. Okay, so he's not tall enough to have been able to hold a shorter adult by her armpits so high that her feet would have been on the balcony railing, as Bongalan testified. California law required balcony railings to have a minimum height of 42 inches. See, I didn't even know that. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so now here are some of the questions. The first question, where did you go after you left Cassie's apartment? She answers, I went to my apartment. Next question, what did you do at your apartment? She said, I was shaking a lot. And then I wanted to take a shower because I felt disgusted. And then I look over behind my leg and I see a huge bruise. Okay. Then they ask her, well, we'll talk about the bruise in just a moment. Miss Bongalan, do you remember all the details of the incident that night? She said, no. They said, do the details that you have talked about stick out in your mind? She said, yes. So she admitted she didn't remember every little detail about that night. And clearly she obviously didn't remember the correct dates because they tripped her up on that. But she did say she didn't remember all the details. But what she did say is that the things that she spoke about on the stand, those are the things that stuck out in her mind. So according to her, these are the things that actually transpired. So they asked, what, if any, physical injuries did you have as a result of that night? She says, I had that big bruise with it was like a piercing in the middle of it. And then I had back and neck pain. And okay, so That's what she said. Now, they said the government next introduced photographs of the injuries Ms. Bongolan supposedly sustained at the hands of Mr. Combs. Okay, a photograph depicting the leg injury taken on September the 26th of 2016 at 9:45 a.m. We already now know that Diddy was signed in at the Trump Hotel having breakfast September the 26th of 2016. Ms. Bongolan testified that she took the photos of her leg injury around the same time indicated in the exhibit, that she did so the same day as the incident, and that she got that injury from being thrown on the balcony furniture. Now, on cross, she confirmed that the balcony incident happened early in the morning, that the photo of the leg bruise was taken later that day, and that the injuries to her back and leg happened on the same day. The government then introduced photographs of the injuries supposedly sustained at the hands of Mr. Combs during the incident. The government knew or should have known this testimony was perjured and that Ms. Bongolan could not possibly have been injured by Mr. Combs on a Los Angeles balcony in the early morning hours of September the 26th, or even the day before that. The government has long known that Mr. Combs was on the East Coast in late September. Now, if the government already knew that, you have to ask yourself, why do they want this woman to come in there and say that this all happened on September the 26th? They knew she was going to say that date because they already had interviewed and met with her many times before she gave her testimony. They had all of the information as to the receipts to disprove what she was going to say, apparently because of the rules of discovery. So why would they have allowed her to come in there and attest to this? Okay, that's crazy to me. That absolutely is prosecutorial misconduct, no matter if you like it or you don't. And quite frankly, I don't, but it's true. Now, the government has long known that Mr. Combs was on the East Coast in late September, and specifically around the time of this alleged incident. The government knew that he had stayed at Trump Hotel in New York between September the 24th through the 29th in 2016. In fact, the government had marked as GX7Y111 the records of this hotel stay, which are now in evidence. And it has had other evidence in its possession for some time, showing Mr. Combs' travel schedule and proving that he was on the East Coast when it told the jury he dangled Ms. Bongolan over the balcony in front of Miss Ventura. Okay, see, let me tell y'all something. Now, what have I told you all? What have I told you all time and time again about this case? That the prosecution is making a bunch of missteps. I told you this from months ago until now, that the prosecution is making fumbling, bumbling missteps in things that they should know better. And this could cause him to walk on a technicality. At the very best, he's going to file for an appeal. And I'm telling you, they have all the grounds to get this case overturned on appeal due to the prior bad acts testimony and things that have transpired. And I keep telling y'all that, and you can take it or leave it, but the same thing's already going on right now as we speak with Harvey Weinstein. I keep telling you, I keep reiterating this, because Harvey Weinstein was granted a whole new trial, okay? And if Diddy gets a second trial, do you really think that the second trial, the information is going to be more believable? In my opinion, it'll be even less, because they'll be wondering, why is this man getting a whole nother trial, okay? The prior bad acts is already detrimental enough. There were multiple motions in limine filed by the defense, but yet these things were allowed to be entered in as evidence, and this is going to come back to haunt them. The government is going to have a time, you know, even though the same prosecutors are not going to have to deal with the appeals process, but the bottom line is this is all going to come back to haunt them in the end. Mel said they won't appeal, the lawyers, because Diddy will pay more and more money. What do you mean they won't appeal? Of course they will. What are you talking about? They're always going to appeal if you get convicted in a case like this. And here's the thing. Diddy has hired Brian Steele, who is the country's probably best appellate lawyer. He has 45 reversals. I told you all that days ago. Of course, they're going to want to appeal. I mean, they prefer a mistrial, but at the end of the day, either way, this is all going to come back. Vanessa said Brian Steele is an appeal attorney. Yes, he's like the best. As far as I'm concerned, like I said, this man has over 300 to his credit and 45 reversals. That's why they have him, okay? This man analyzes cases to perfection. All right, I'm telling y'all. So anyway, with that all been said, they want a mistrial so they can just get this thing, they can just come back and have a redo. Okay, that's what they want. So anyway, let me continue. So then they go on to say, now they have this part redacted, But they say what's more, when the defense began to expose the perjury on cross-examination, the government repeatedly attempted to disrupt the cross with unfounded objections and requests for sidebars. Yeah, they did do that. They kept saying object, I object, objection, and all of this. And then they kept calling for sidebars. Now, what I want you all to pay attention to is, to me, that was being used as a ruse, as a distraction, okay, just to throw people off, to make people not focus on the fact that she was sitting up there getting caught up and tripped up in her story. And here's the thing. She was granted immunity. So if she was granted immunity and sat up there and perjure herself, she's not supposed to be able to have, she's supposed to still be able to be charged for her perjury. Okay. Now, what are they going to do about that? I have several questions. Hold on, beloveds. And she definitely, it was pointed out by Westmoreland that she definitely had motivation, in her opinion, because she filed that lawsuit, which I think that's another big mistake. I think it was a big mistake to have anybody who filed a lawsuit against Diddy in the civil court to have them testifying, because the defense can just come and say, well, they have motivation to lie. How do we know we can believe and trust the word? Because they're motivated by money, which is exactly what they alleged. Okay, in Bungalon's case. Now, with that all being said, they go on to say, then, despite having cited Ventura's false testimony about having directly witnessed the alleged incident, the government persuaded the court to admit the hearsay text messages with quorum describing what Ventura had found out from someone else. Yes. And so when that text message was shown, that basically just disproved the fact that Cassie claimed that she saw it. She said that she saw it herself, but the text message let it be known that she obviously heard this from another party, okay, from a third party. So despite having elicited perjurious testimony from Ventura, claiming she saw the alleged conduct. Now, all of this was highly improper and exasperated the harm caused by suborning the perjured testimony. Now, it bears emphasis that the use of the perjured testimony regarding the balcony incident in this is just one example of prosecutorial misconduct during this trial. The defense previously moved for a mistrial based on the improper line of questioning related to the 2012 destruction of fingerprints provided by Scott Miscuddy to the LAPD. Because remember, the defense accused the prosecution of bringing up the fact that allowing it to be brought up that the fingerprint cards came up missing, because they claimed that they were trying to imply or, give the jurors incentive to think that Diddy possibly paid to have those fingerprints disappear. Okay, and they were saying that's, prejudicial, of course. So with that being said, as the court will recall, the defense argued that the government's motive in eliciting this testimony was to create an unfounded and highly prejudicial inference that Mr. Combs somehow had corruptly arranged for the destruction of the fingerprints. The government claimed that that was not the purpose of its questions, and the court denied the motion and instead gave a narrow limiting instruction. However, it became apparent shortly thereafter, during the questioning of Mia, the very next day, that in fact the government's motive all along must have been to suggest that Mr. Combs had corrupt influence over the LA authorities when it tried to create the impression that he was responsible for the destruction of the fingerprints. Now let's talk about this for a second, because here's the thing. Here's the problem I have with that. Now, if the government was trying to imply or insinuate that in fact Diddy had some sort of power or influence over the LAPD to the extent that he could actually get an officer to risk their job and even prison time by destroying evidence against him, what does that tell us? You see, that tells us that you can't trust the police. And if they're saying in one breath that we can't trust the police because Mr. Combs, as they implied, was able to buy off the police to get rid of evidence against him, but at the same time, they had a police officer testify on the stand. So we're supposed to believe the police. So do they want us to trust the police or not? It's contradictory. Do you see how I'm telling you the prosecution is making a bunch of fumbles here? Okay, shouldn't they know better? Okay, this is like so annoying as far as I'm concerned. Like, how do they do this? It makes absolutely no darn sense. The LW Experience says, I appreciate your honest reporting of this case. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for your kind words and your contributions to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, Vanessa says you can't trust the prosecution either. Eric says, exactly. Okay, Vanessa says, big fumbles. Right. Cypher says, who's measuring the scales of justice? That's what I'd like to know, beloved. So I'm just telling you, this is not looking good. What is the prosecution thinking? But again, this should be no surprise to any of us, because I've been telling you all this, from day one. The prosecution is doing a bunch of crazy things from the beginning, where it was reported by the New York Post that allegedly one of the federal officers spoke to them anonymously. I was giving them information about what was confiscated in the raids, what was seen on the freak-off tapes. And I'm like, why are they leaking information to the press? This is all something that could come back to haunt them. Okay. Then when they had Diddy's jail cells searched, okay, and then there was that big thing with the defense saying it was attorney-client privilege or whatever, even though they were able to, go get away with that, because it was said that was not, Diddy didn't actually have legal written on the documents prior. But nonetheless, there were just some things they were doing that I was like, they need to be careful, because this team of lawyers that Diddy has, they're not the ones to play with. Okay, these people are doing everything they can, and they're doing a good job of it. Okay, specifically Brian Steele and Nicole Westmoreland. But let me continue. So anyway, specifically, the government elicited testimony from Mia about 2 incidents in which the LAPD did not issue a ticket for speeding after she was pulled over, because the officers found out that she worked for Mr. Combs. In one case, Mia got pulled over speeding and then name dropped that her boss was Mr. Combs and got him on the phone, after which the officer was saying like, oh my God, Puff Daddy, I love you. Like, just went into this whole very excited conversation and then let me go. Y'all hear this? Second time Mr. Combs was in the car, and once they saw Puff, they were like, oh, my bad, yeah, and left us alone. The prosecutor took special care to emphasize that these incidents occurred in Los Angeles. Now, the question is, what city did these interactions with the police occur in? The answer is LA. Now, these incidents in isolation seem like benign examples of police giving lenient treatment to popular famous people, coupled with the sinister implications of the fingerprint destruction. However, they create a strong implication that the reason that Mia, and as the government will surely argue, other alleged victims didn't go to the police was because Mr. Combs' corrupt influence over the police and the LAPD in particular. But again, like I said, they want to tell us that he was able to get favors from the police, that the police would let him get away with things, that they would possibly go as far as to destroy evidence for him. This is what was all implied, not actually said out loud, but merely implied. But with that all been said, they still want us to trust the police when they get on the stand and testify. So if the police are capable of being so corrupt to the extent and degree that they're willing to destroy evidence to get a famous person off, why the hell should we believe anything they say on the stand then? That's my question. Why should we take anything they say with anything other than a grain of salt? Okay, make it all make sense. You can't have it both ways. Do you want us to believe the police and trust the police or not? Now, in other words, the subsequent questioning of Mia, even if itself permissible, further corroborates that the government's real purpose in its questioning of the fire inspector, Les Jimenez, was to improperly suggest that Mr. Combs corruptly caused the destruction of the fingerprints. This constitutes another instance of prosecutorial misconduct. Accordingly, the court should grant a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. Respectfully submitted. And it's signed by Alexandra Shapiro, Jason A. Driscoll, Mark Agnifilo, Tina Garagos, Ana Estavio. All right. Brian Steele, Xavier Donaldson, and of course, Nicole Westmoreland. So what do you all think about this? What do y'all think about it? I find it all interesting. At the end of the day, I think that the government, they have their work cut out for them. They really do. Vanessa said this is also nefarious. It absolutely is. Okay. Lady Lina said, boom. All right. Now, it's very interesting. Now, Lindell says the new information coming beyond the text messages is Cassie was also out of town with Diddy on tour, making Cassie and Brianna liars. A mistrial is going to be very, I think you meant very soon after this gets revealed. Let me tell y'all something, honey. I'm just like wondering, you know, as I said, if the government had all this information, and surely they did, okay, that's why they have something called discovery. So you don't get hit with a big shock and surprise. Okay, so you don't walk in there, you know, and just get ambushed by evidence you didn't know existed. They knew all of this stuff. They knew that the defense had these receipts. Okay, they knew that Cassie and Brianna told two different stories. They knew that there was a text message that Cassie said, you know, acted as though she had just found out the news and information. They knew that Cassie and Brianna had been talking prior to and after Cassie's testimony. So I'm sorry, but you know, the math is not math, and they're going to have to work extra hard to get this back on track. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you know, just judging from what I'm hearing and seeing online, where I told you all yesterday, the video that I did, and somebody left me a little smart comment. Y'all know I don't care, honey, because don't try to go in on me, honey, because please, okay, you just can't. Okay, somebody left me a comment saying, you know, when I did the video about why some men are defending Diddy and some are victim blaming, somebody left me a hold on, this is one of my moderators. Somebody left me a hold on, beloveds, let me return this text. So somebody left me a little smart comment talking about, well, you know, we're defending Diddy because they said something about they're trying to bring a black man down or whatever. I can't remember what all they said, but they were like, at the end of the day, we're going to keep on defending Diddy. I said, well, keep defending him. I don't care if you defend him. I don't have a problem with that, because on this channel, we're not obtuse. So we really don't get pressed about contrary opinions. Everyone is entitled to feel or think how they will. If you're a team Diddy and you're in my chat or you follow this channel, I don't care. That's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. Anybody, listen, if you're pro Diddy, that's fine. If you're not, that's fine too. No, I'm not for Diddy, do not like Diddy, okay? And want Diddy to be found guilty. But I want him to be found guilty by the truth and the evidence as it's presented, because otherwise it makes no sense. Because like I said, they can just come back and get the conviction overturned if they can prove that there was prosecutorial misconduct and lies and perjury testimony and all of the above, okay? And other things. So I don't know why anybody got mad, but the reason I talked about that yesterday is because here's why. I really have been noticing that online, Mel said, I'm with you, Queen. Thank you, beloved. I really have been noticing online that most of the men that I have seen have basically feel like, hey, Diddy didn't do anything wrong. Y'all are trying to bring his bedroom into the court and trying to dictate what he can and can't do inside of his bedroom. No matter how many times you tell them about the RICO, what is needed for the RICO, what they've already proven, they don't want to hear it. They do not care. So my concern is for the men on the jury. How are they viewing this? Are they thinking the same thing as many of these men online? Are they too thinking that this is all about domestic violence and sex and what somebody does in the privacy of their own bedrooms or hotel rooms? Is that what they're also thinking? I just have questions. Because remember, all they need is one person to have a doubt. All they need to do is cast a reasonable doubt to one person is not convinced, and they can get a hung jury. Okay, there will be a whole mistrial. So that all been said, I just find it all interesting. Hold on, you all are talking about Benny Hill. What's Benny Hill doing? Benny says, a fan of who? Who? You're not even related to Tupac and Allie Carter got something in common. You're not even related to Tupac and Allie Carter got something in common. Sir, first of all, who told you anything about me or Tupac? That's for number one. And for two, why are you here? I have several questions, okay? All right, sit down somewhere, sir. I said I knew Tupac in real life, but I didn't even say that today, and I don't know where you're coming from with the nefariousness. So anyway, with that all been said, listen, please ignore the trolls. They're just here to cause a distraction, okay? Please don't respond to the trolls. They have nothing else to do. So with that all being said, you know, I'm thinking that even if Diddy is found guilty, definitely this case is probably going to get overturned. Okay, I'm sorry. There's a myriad of BS that's going on. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. Okay. Miss AP said, who's running off at the lips? Mel said they are haters. How do y'all know? I don't be paying these people no attention. I don't know them in real life, and they damn sure don't know me. And as you all know, whenever I drop the link, they never click it. I mean, so I guess that's what they do. Right. Claudia said they can't help themselves. Okay. Just anticipate said, Benny, go milk a cow or something. Let me tell y'all something, honey. If all you have time to do is go around and troll people, then that means you have no life, no purpose, and clearly are bored and pressed. Okay, so anyway, so what do you all think? What do you all think about the prosecution? I mean, I feel like they're just, you know, I feel like they're doing a little bit too much, because in my opinion, if they would just stick to the facts, and if they had only had the more credible witnesses to testify, we wouldn't even be discussing this. Now, they should have known, and I'm sure they did when they had the interviews with these witnesses, that some of these people's stories didn't quite frankly add up. Okay, they just didn't add up. I told you all, some of the best witnesses, in my opinion, in this case were the two guys from the hotel. Specifically, I like Carrie Morgan, who was smart enough, even though she said she knew a myriad of instances of Diddy being violent and doing things, she only brought up two. And she said she brought those two up because those are the ones that she could thoroughly remember. So they weren't able to trip her up in anything that she said. That was very smart of her. The dancer, or the S worker, the Punisher, okay, Sheree Hayes, he was a good witness also. Seemed very down to earth, very believable, had a likability factor, didn't have any ulterior motives, and gave excellent testimony, was not tripped up on anything. Okay? The financial advisor. There were many witnesses who did good jobs and who gave believable and credible testimony, in my opinion. But there were a few of them who their stories got tripped up, and even if they were in fact telling the truth, they were made to look as though they were lying, or they didn't know what they were talking about in certain cases. So I just feel like the prosecutor could have done without those people. I don't even think they needed Breonna to prove their case. I don't think they needed Don Richard to prove their case. So they should not have had those people testify. Now, that's just my 2 cents. But anyway, with that all being said, listen, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. Miss AP said the Punisher and Capricorn and a few more were credible. Right. I would have to agree. Anastasia said, Queen, I sent you a super chat. Thank you, beloved. I must have missed it. Sit up and running my mouth, honey. I appreciate you, beloved. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Anastasia said, for the live in Harlem, goddess, thank you for being. Well, thank you so much, beloved. I appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate you donating to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so listen. You all, please be sure to get the likes up. Please be sure to like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, I will be going live from court in the morning before they let us in. All right. I'll be going live in the morning from court before they let us in, and then I'll come back and give you all some updates. And I'll probably actually leave out of the courtroom tomorrow and come down and give y'all an update or two. Okay. With that all being said, I love you all. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this Sunday. For those of you who haven't seen Sinners, it is now streaming on Amazon Prime, if you missed it. Okay, so each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Hit him with that flavor. All in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen,